Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. So welcome, everyone. As many of you know, Joey Stuckey is here every fourth Sunday here on Big Blend Radio, and Joey Stuckey is an amazing musician, songwriter, producer, recording artist, and also a speaker. He is also the music ambassador for Macon, Georgia, which is the capital of Southern rock. He is also a blind performer, blind recording artist and producer, and he just came back from LA. So we did this last year and the year before. We always want to catch up with what he did in January in LA, which means he went to the Grammys and he went to NAMM, which is I think it's the National Association of Music Manufacturers. I think I've got that straight, but it is an incredible thing to go to. And it's just like the big hub of all the musicians getting together, seeing all the new gear. And then, of course, the Grammys come around and get the performances and all the things they do. And one of the things we love about Joey is that he does take a look at what's going on in the industry for accessibility. So if it's recording gear, is it accessible for those who are maybe hearing or sight impaired? And yes, hearing impaired. There are musicians that are hearing impaired. So just making sure everyone understands that when I'm talking that, I think it's one of the brilliant things he talks about. He travels the world doing it, and as well as performing, of course. So we've got a lot to talk about. And the main topic today is AI in the music industry. And we're going to be talking about that. But first, we want the gossip because he went to the Grammys and I so wanted to be in his seat watching the tribute to Ozzy Osbourne. And because I watched clips of that and I was like, dude, that is so cool. Such an awesome performance. And I wish I was there for that. So Joey, how are you?
Well, my friend, we had a really good time. We were on tour in California for 3 weeks and did a lot of things. And most of them were planned. Some were extra special surprises that kind of happened. But as you say, everyone, gathers during Grammy week, during NAMM week, and gets together. So you see a lot of friends that are scattered all over the world. And you get a chance to reconnect with friends that you haven't seen for a little while. You get a chance to even, brainstorm about your next collaboration together. It's really a magnificent time. It's exhausting in a really good way. I mean, the programs are from dusk till dawn. I mean, they just, there's so much to do. And honestly, even if you stay the full week of NAMM and the full week of the Grammys, which we did, you still can't see it all. I mean, it's just, there's so many amazing things going on. And so it was fantastic. I mean, I will tell you, if you haven't been to NAMM before and you're thinking about going, to go to all the events, you can get a basic badge for some of it for about $150, $200. But to go to all the events, is around $600-$700 for a full badge. You got your hotel expenses, your food expenses. So it's not a cheap endeavor, but I do highly recommend it. I will say you better get good sleep before you get there. You're gonna need it because NAMM is the loudest place ever. In fact, my wife's Apple Watch was constantly saying things like, "You're in unsafe volume levels." like it was so loud. Every couple of hours, we would have to duck out of the main trade show floor and go outside and just get 10 minutes of quiet. But it's absolutely phenomenal. And the thing that's exciting about it is you are able to meet people on the forefront of their industry, and whether it's a new musical product, a new musical instrument, whether it's an education, that's your thing. There are all these different sort of symposiums going on different topics. You really get it. And, it's the best of the best. Lots of famous, producers are there doing panel discussions on different topics. So it's really incredible. Plus, you get to see and play with all the new gear. Everything from guitars, microphones, computer software. It's all there. So it's really interesting. But, AI, the big disruptor in our industry at the moment. I say disruptor not necessarily as a negative thing, but it is a major paradigm shift in the entertainment space. It's not just music, but it's a big deal. And I attended two AI symposiums, one put on at NAMM, one put on by the Recording Academy, which is the Grammys, and both were quite informative and really, had a lot to say. And of course, on the sidelines, we're all talking about it too, outside of the official symposiums, and people are using it in different ways. But it's I think the main takeaway is it's here, it's not going anywhere. It's a technology that companies are able to exploit for profit, and when that happens, you're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. So it is something we're going to have to deal with. The primary, and we'll go into different aspects, but the primary things that are sort of what needs to happen next, since we've acknowledged that the technology is here and it's going to stay, there are moral and ethical and practical conversations that need to be had. Unfortunately, the law of the land, and this is not just the United States. This is in the whole world. The law is usually 15 to 20 years behind the technology, and so the real problem is that there's an event horizon happening here where the technology is increasing and increasing and increasing faster than ever before. So what used to be a 15, 20-year gap with the law has the potential of just being totally outpaced, where the law doesn't even compute anymore. And so we are really at a moment when everyone that's interested in how AI is used or not used needs to participate by talking to their state legislator, all their different government officials, and really being part of the conversation. Because this is, in my mind, it's a time that really we just don't have the luxury to let things settle and see how it is. It's the Wild West out there right now. It really is. And, there's just lots of things happening. It's something that we're really going to have to be part of. That's why this conversation you and I are going to have today is so important, because I think it's going to be a good primer for anybody interested in the technology to start getting their mind around what's going on and what safeguards need to be put in place.
Yeah, I want to touch on accessibility, if that was anything that people spoke about when you were there, because I know that's of super interest to you. And, there's so many needs in the music community. There's musicians that have, limb loss that are still performing in some way,
Absolutely.
And so there's just so many different needs. And AI is an amazing tool, but there's also some deadly things happening with it that we know about, right? There's suicides that are happening. I think that I just read something the other day of a lady that, has got her stuff together, and AI took her down some weird rabbit hole of, her past life and all of this weird stuff. And it was ChatGTP, I think. And like, she's interested in that stuff, but it doesn't mean you've lost it, but it knew enough about her to use it. And that's not cool, And so I think it suddenly starts to become this human form to people in the chat mode. And if you're a solo worker, which is kind of interesting, writers are like that, like I got Nancy around me, so I'm not solo, I got animals. But so many people are working from home, and, in the music studio, when you're producing, there's a solo thing. And if you're working and the chat thing starts talking to you in a different way, almost human, there's a danger there. And I can see that, especially maybe in our youth. So when we're talking, I want to include our youth, because most of the time our music journey actually started there. And so AI, that is one part of it. I know we're going to get into how we can utilize it in editing, we can use it in, or producing in your world. I keep going editing in my world, right?
That's
But
fantastic.
but also, are there things that are going to help in the accessibility wise? But then we also have, it's, I'm seeing more and more in AI products that you can say yes or no in the teeny weeny fine print, that no, you can't use my information for training purposes, right? So I see some changes slowly coming about. But again, in the teeny weeny fine print, like Joey, you don't have to be blind to not see it. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
No, it's
So
true.
there's all of that to look at. But while you were there, anything in regards to this safety? Can we just get that part done, and we can look at the good stuff, but the safety of it, did they talk about any of what I'm bringing up?
Yeah, Will I Am from the Black Eyed Peas was a guest at one of the panels, and he's quite the entrepreneur. He has I to be honest, I mean, don't know a lot about him outside of the Black Eyed Peas, but he owns several tech companies. He's got a lot of money, and
entrepreneur, big time.
He really is. And basically, when we're talking about safety, one of the big thing, and this sort of crosses a couple of lines. So we're talking about safety, but we're also talking about intellectual property, and so this sort of crosses into both fields. Essentially, these symposiums were long, nuanced, and so I'm going to have to cut down what was said to the bare bones. But essentially, his point, which I think is a good one, is that we need, and this gets into how we are entertained as well. So there's a lot to talk about here. But we need to move away from subscription-based models. So what I mean by that, so for example, you pay your $10 a month to Netflix and can watch the shows, but you don't have control over which shows are part of their catalog, and part of their catalog changes. So for instance, recently, a bunch of Star Trek content was removed from one of the streaming services. I believe it was Netflix. And a lot of people were very upset about that now there's nowhere, because they're not selling DVDs and Blu-rays anymore.
Warner Brothers thing with Netflix right now.
Yeah. So your favorite shows just don't exist currently. Like you can't access them. And so what he is saying, we're going to take it now we've started with that. We're going to take it into the world of AI now. You're paying subscription basis for use of ChatGPT or whatever. And you don't actually control ChatGPT. Some corporate structure controls that. So his point was to truly have AI be something that is primarily of benefit to man, and something that has fewer opportunities for abuse. You need to own the AI that you use. And so what does that look like? That's a real interesting question.
But that opens big doors, actually.
Well, so it's he's saying you need to own the AI that you use every single day. And as you were pointing out, Lisa, as you talk to the AI, as you give it what they like to call prompts. So as you talk to it, as you interact with it, it gets to know you better. It begins to recognize patterns of behavior. And so you need to own all that. You also need to own the data that you feed it, and you need to own your digital identity. So so ownership of the technology needs to move from a subscription-based thing where a corporate structure owns it and you rent it basically, to where you own it and then you can control exactly how it's used. So that was his big point. And I think there's a lot to be said there. I mean, now, as I say, there's a lot of moving pieces there. What does that look like? I mean, he was envisioning AI becoming even more physical in the future, with robots that could do household tasks and interact with you on a more physical level as well. I mean, he talked a little bit about that, and how we seem to have a good understanding of, I own my vacuum cleaner, but what if your vacuum cleaner has AI in it?
My God, it's got it. Well, okay, the ownership thing. So I'm wondering, is he going to go into, okay, and this is a natural thing. That's why we have a DMV, and even about websites, the domain race, the domain name race. Remember?
Right.
That was one of the biggest things. And then it went, and we still have it happening where it's real estate to own certain names.
That's right.
And I know recently dealt with some of that. And oh my God, can I say shyster? Is that rude?
No, I don't think that's too rude.
It's not, right? It held someone hostage with their domain name as a webmaster. And I was like, are you kidding me? It riled us up. Like, that is not good business, but that is smart business, but it's not good business.
Right.
It's no integrity, right?
That's right.
It's no integrity to your former client, like that this guy did, and, went from trying to sell his previous website client the domain name that he bought for him,
Right.
See, like when we purchase, it's like you own it, not us, right? If
Right.
we do that for a friend. And like to us, everybody needs to have their names. You need to have your path. Everyone, please, when you listen to me here, own your domain name, have it under your name, have your password, have the ID, the username. Always have that. I don't care who you have do your website. You must have your own paperwork for this. This is where Will I Am is right.
Yeah.
Because your webmaster could die, not saying that I want him to or she to die, but anyway, this guy goes and does it for him, which back in the day, it was an old school way to help because it was like, it was not accessible to people as it is now,
Right
right?
now it's easy. Yeah.
And you can still transfer it. He tried to charge our friend over $2,000 for his website name
Oh
that
yeah,
he's had for
I've seen people
years.
do it.
And I'm like, this is some, yeah, this is making me go into that language territory I don't want to on a podcast. Anyway, he then cut it down and actually went down to from over 2,000 to 200 or something stupid.
Well, I
And
mean, and
and it was form letters that AI wrote.
yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. The past 15 years, people have gotten used to licensing things rather than owning things, and so I think that paradigm shift is real important when we start talking about AI protections. The other side of this is federal legislation, of which currently there is none. And we have a handful of states that have passed things like, for example, Tennessee has passed the Elvis Act that sort of protects name and likeness a little bit. It's not as comprehensive as what I would want, but it's a good start. So there's that, but you need very strict regulations and you need transparency. And the other thing is, like, right now, there's no, and let's just be honest about this. This may be controversial, but the truth's the truth. Silicon Valley does not want to be regulated.
No.
They spend a lot of money lobbying our federal government, trying to keep from being regulated. They've always had that position. It's gotten a lot bigger, a lot more, dollars behind it in the age of social media, where they don't want to be regulated from social media or take any responsibility for some of the harms social media can cause. So, and these guys have all the money. So it's real hard for the average citizen to compete against that kind of unnatural influence in our politics. But the federal legislation, as I say, there is no federal legislation at all regarding AI. And so there's also no or little transparency about where and how much information is being scraped, which is the technical term, when the AI gets trained on data. There's not good information about what's being scraped, who owns the material, how much of it's being used. So to try and be even just at the bare minimum compensated for your contribution to training AI models is almost impossible because there's no transparency over that. So there's a bunch of lawsuits going on right now in the music space. And sadly, in our Western form of government, this is kind of how laws tend to become reality, is they tend to have to be adjudicated in court. And so that takes time and money. And so it's a real dangerous thing. But, AI is only as good as the information you feed into it. Mm-hmm. It's not a real person. It cannot think on its own, even though it can collate facts. But there are some really horrifying incidences where, the chat bots are kind of designed to reaffirm you and give you a positive experience that will keep you coming back to the chatbot. And that is how a few people have been talked into, like, suicide, for example. That's it's
a new form of a cult.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't remember how many. I know there's like 2 cases where people were like, talked. The chatbot sort of said, "Yeah, you're right. You should kill yourself." I mean, so, but again, it's garbage in, garbage out. I mean, and we need to recognize this as a systemic issue in the internet anyway, because if I publish anyone can publish an article on the internet. And if I publish an article that, for good reasons or bad reasons, gets tons and tons of hits, that will come to the surface of the first thing you see when you do a search. So, negative information, things that are just factually wrong, often get promoted, as truth on the internet. And the chatbots are susceptible to that same kind of rise to the top mentality. It's how much engagement you put into the chatbot that sort of determines its outlook. So you have to be really careful about that. I will tell you anecdotally something that concerned me really greatly during Grammy week. I met up with a friend. And in fact, I specifically waited at a party longer than I wanted to because I'm old and tired. And I waited longer because I wanted to give my friend a hug. I felt very led in my spirit to see him because he's just gone through a divorce on Christmas Day. And he was, he was not,
Yeah.
he was not,
It's a human.
yeah, he was not doing well. And so he is one of the most talented people I know, wonderful person, but the most organized individual I have ever met. And like so hard to pin down. It's like it takes so much work to make sure he's where he's supposed to be. And so I wanted to see him, and he actually said to me that he started using Chat GPT to help him organize his life and get his life on track. And so, part of me is because the problem he has is he gets so overwhelmed with things to do that he just doesn't start. So, and a lot of people have that problem. So Chat GPT has been able to be a very positive influence on him organizationally. The problem that I have is what he said. I was like, okay, this is wonderful. You found a tool. You're able to organize better than that's clearly one of your, we all have our weaknesses or issues. So you're able to use Chat GPT in a positive manner. And then he said, it's such a relief to deal with someone that's not judgmental. And through our conversation, he sort of revealed that he had kind of started anthropomorphizing Chat GPT. And I was like, I love you, buddy. Just remember that's not a real person.
No, but this is really true. There's a series, that's out on YouTube now, and documentary talking about and how one person thought he was actually saving the world through this technical stuff he was doing using ChatGPT and Gemini, and he was playing the two of them against each other.
Weird.
And he thought he was going to NASA with his stuff, trying to go to, no, I mean, this is because it's this friendly tone that comes, and I actually mess with it to see what's going to happen and sit and go, I wonder if it'll say this. I wonder if it'll say that, like throw it off, be a whole different person when you use it, just to see. Like mess with it. And it does, you can mess with it. So it doesn't really know you. And then wait, is that really a good tool then? Like it's weird. It's a very weird thing the chats can be very helpful, but you better learn and read. I watched a travel writer the other day post something and had all the chat prompts of what she should do in her social media post. She's gotten to the point where she just copies and pastes it for a new article, posted it, and I saw another travel writer go, hey, yo, you got to check what you just posted. You've got your chat stuff in there. And she didn't even look. And I went back the next day just to see, and she just still left it. And here's all these people commenting like, hey, you left your chat instructions saying, post this. If you say this, this is what it will do. She just has become so, see, complacency is what scares me in all of this. And where do we become as humans? It's like it's a weird cult thing of it's taking away what makes us individuals. And that to me is the scariest thing, because the arts prompt creativity, independence, independent thought. If we're not using our brains, and kids are doing this, I mean, I'm watching writers trying to send in articles using this stuff, and I'm like, out.
What's really interesting is you can still tell. I guess we're harping on Chat GPT, and just because it's the most. In fairness, there's a lot of them out there, and they're all basically the same. But these chatbots, essentially, you can tell when something's been AI generated. Currently, you can still tell because it says the same thing about 3 different ways, and it's the same information, and it just sort of recompiles and recompiles and recompiles in different ways, and so you can kind of tell what's and then you can kind of tell when you're in a bubble of people using chatbots, because you'll see two or three different authors of content with almost the identical sort of phrasing and that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
everything is a deep dive. Whenever I look at, hey, we're writing this up, I'll use it a little bit. We all in social media stuff, yes, that's a normal thing to do. But you got to go back in, because everything is a deep dive. Everything is this. And I'm like, is that the only word you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
look
yeah.
at it this way, is it's like, so computers run on a binary system, right?
Well, unless they're quantum computers.
Okay, now you're going to get weird on me. I know, right? But it's that. So when you look at a binary system, you look at like a chain link,
Yeah.
right? It's two, and you can look at it either way, whether the links are oblong in your face, then linked that way or the other way. Don't matter. It's still two to make this link work. So that's binary. And actually, when you look at binary code, it looks like a bunch of links. I think. Now, if some geek's going to call me and say, you really have no clue what you're talking about, and I'll go,
I love it.
you're
I love it.
quite right. I don't. I'm a
Yeah.
human, and I'm going with the best of my knowledge here.
Yeah.
But when you do it, look at the chat. You have now allowed the chat in to be the other side of your link. So you've created a binary between the human and the robot to now spit out this and that. So, but AI has got an amazing amount of good things to it. There are tools, but on the creative side, it gets weird. And the chatting side, it gets weird. But there are some great tools in editing of podcasts. If you allow the AI to edit your podcast, you will hear a bunch of hiccups because it doesn't know a certain word. So it just goes, that's a stupid word, I'm taking it out. So you have to still be the monitor as an editor of a podcast, right? So, and that all comes with a subscription, because everything is based on a darn subscription. Every single thing, from Canva to Riverside, where we do our editing, to other editing things, we have other but every single thing, Photoshop is a subscription, and it does steal your stuff. Even, I don't believe they don't take your stuff. I just don't believe it. How do we know?
It's that's the thing. I had an interesting.
You've riled me up, Joey.
Well, I'm glad I could be of service. I had an interesting conversation with somebody. I say conversation; they weren't really interested in processing my side of it, but I have been in many forums in the music space. I have been sounding, the alarm bells of advocacy and of people advocating for protections for AI. And I'm not Chicken Little. I'm not saying the sky is falling. I'm not saying the music business is over. Every time there's a major shift in technology, there's an adjustment period, and people can't imagine the business continuing on in the way that it has previously. So, for example, when recording technology first became available, widespread, all the musicians were like, oh, nobody's going to see live concerts anymore. Everybody's just going to listen at home. The music business is over. And of course, that didn't happen. But it was a disruptor, and there was a period of time where you had to figure out how to make the same living you've been making for 20 years with this new reality. So I've been saying that in these forums, and to be honest, most people that spend any time on the forums are usually people that don't have anything better to do with their lives and are usually hostile and take joy in just being mean. But occasionally you'll reach somebody, who's actually trying to learn something or broaden their horizons. And, those are the people that I hope I reach. But this person said, you're no different than AI. All the music you make was stolen as well. And I said that wasn't true, because when I decided to become a musician, I paid for guitar lessons. I paid to go to music school, bought albums of my favorite artists. So I paid to listen to their music. I paid to go to concerts. And even if you take radio and say that you listen to music for free on the radio, I was actually a commodity for the radio because they sold me ads.
Yeah,
So I paid for even the free, quote unquote, free music on the radio, I still paid for that. There was still compensation flowing from my participation to somebody else. So to say that I stole the music and just gleaned a bunch of music and didn't pay for it is just factually not true. But the difference is that while I might be inspired by the Beatles, I am not trying to recreate their work from the ground up. And to be inspired by someone and make a new work is different than processing a bunch of data and building something that's a replicant rather than an inspirational piece. I want to drill down on that just a little bit more, because Spotify and other corporations like that who make music make money off of other people's work. Their goal is to pay me as little as they possibly can and pocket all the profits. And so, but their entire business model is built on the back of my business model. So my music gives them something to sell that they can make money off of. So when Spotify tries to use AI to create music they get on a chat bot and say, I want a song that sounds like Jay-Z, and I want it to be this tempo, and I want it to have these instruments, and they feed it all the prompts. What their end goal is to own that AI creation, and then they get to keep all the money that would go to Jay-Z or to myself or whoever they're playing. They get to keep all that, and they get more revenue. And so that's kind of the problem. There was a huge thing about 15 years ago now called the fake artist scandal, where Spotify basically hired, it wasn't AI, but it was the same idea. They hired a bunch of really talented session musicians and said, make music that sounds like, the Beatles. And so when you go and listen to the Beatles on Spotify, the algorithms goes, oh, if you like the Beatles, you might like this. And they play you this fake artist who's not making any, money. It's not a real artist. They're just some guys that were hired to make music in the vein of the Beatles. And so that is kind of the problem. So with just to put the final cap on sort of the danger with AI currently, the problem is that the United States Copyright Office does not recognize solely AI generated music. What does that mean practically? It means practically that you cannot exercise any of these 6 exclusive rights granted to a copyright holder. And furthermore, you cannot adjudicate a claim in the court system. Technically speaking, there's this weird law that says the moment something's recorded is technically copyrighted. I mean, that is like a thing, but it's not a real thing, because you have to file the paperwork correctly in order to exercise your copyright. And so since the Library of Congress does not recognize AI exclusive generated content, who owns this stuff? So what's happening now, again, this is going to be all settled in the courts, but there are people selling AI generated songs because they uploaded it to a distribution platform and the money's coming to them, but they don't actually own it.
Right. I get emails all the time from people trying to sell me AI generated music for podcasts.
Yeah. And you can't own it. The other thing is, and I'm very proud of this, the Recording Academy also does not recognize solely generated AI music for any type of Grammy nomination. So 2 of the most important organizations in the music space do not recognize solely generated AI music. Now, the next question that logically follows is, how do you prove that it is or it isn't? And of course, there's not a good answer for that. Currently, I can still tell that something's been AI generated, but you have to really know what you're doing. You have to be someone that breaks apart music for a living to catch some of the weird little foibles that AI tends to add to its creation.
The same as writing.
Yeah, yep. I mean, you have to really be in the trenches to spot it. But it's really good. It's really good, and it's getting better all the time. And so, there is a debate about, livelihoods being disrupted, and then the value of creation. I personally feel what's going to happen, but slowly. is that people will become disenfranchised with not owning anything. The more corporations take control of what they're able to access, and then they will begin to value the creative process of humans making music for humans.
Yes, that's a huge full circle from when we first started today talking about what Netflix is doing and things like that, and Spotify, and these corporations, they're eating up, and they make the money. Court cases take years and
money.
And money, and meantime people are profiting all through these years, and by the time the court case wins or loses, it's already gotten on. It's like trying to get a bill passed through Congress. It is like, at this point, I mean, because if you look at this is exactly, I believe, the actual problem of the world today is we have all these muckety mucks in politics, all the muckety mucks in these conglomerates, right? If it's going to make money, they make a decision immediately, they'll get it done. If it's like something to do with ethics or whatever, oh, let's take our time. And it's like court cases they will string stuff out in a court case forever because they're profiting while that court case takes 10 years. When the people want something changed, politics does the same thing. We have to have another meeting. We have to have another meeting. And it's all a bunch of meetings with nothing getting done but the grubby hands. And it's all to delay progress of something that may not be making money. That is my personal belief in all of it. But it's true. It is true. If you look at politics and all the lobbying from all sides, it's about what people want, and it's about money at the end of the day.
Well, and that's the point I was making in the greater argument, was that, AI currently is being, I mean, there are some people getting paid with their likeness being trained on AI. Some people are getting paid, but the vast majority are not. And my overarching point was that I paid to learn my craft, and whoever is taking the information to train the AI, those people need to be compensated. So if you use Joey Stuckey's entire catalog of music to train your AI on how to play blues, then I need to have a piece of that because I educated you. And you have directly, in my opinion, it goes to something called derivative work, which is a copyright, which means that you take somebody's work and add to it and make a new work. And that is a negotiable fee, and I can refuse you permission.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I paid to be a musician, and if you use my catalog to train your AI, then I should be compensated for that. That's just basic economics, and I have no problem with people making money off whatever they do. I think that's fine, but purposely are trying to be obscure about where you get your data and how much of it's collected and how it's being used. That's a real problem. And that's one of the big problems with AI right now in the creative spaces. And there's also people, seeing, that they want dead artists to be machine learning on dead artists so that dead artists can make new music. That's something that people are talking about. I just saw somebody the other day say, why don't we train one of these AIs on the entire Prince catalog and get them to make new Prince music? And I just think that's nuts. I mean, it's not Prince, and I don't know why you would want some simulacrum of Prince. We can enjoy what he has, and part of what makes his catalog special is the fact that there is no more. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions about what it means to be human and how you can be human and interface in the digital age. So there's a lot of questions that are going to have to be resolved about that. I think, as I said earlier, to kind of repeat, but I think that over time there will be a disenfranchisement of people feeling like they don't own anything, and they want to go back to owning the content that they consume. And I think that there will be a realization at some point that humans making music for other humans has value beyond financial reality of it. But as I said earlier, there are some positive things about AI. We should definitely talk about that. I just want to say, I'm unapologetically a humanist. I believe in keeping AI in its lane. I'm not a Luddite, but I also am not real keen for a machine to replace my 10,000 hours that I've built with my skills. And all for some kind of version of Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics that prevent AI from doing things that are against human interests. And I will say, if you've been paying attention to the news in the last several months, you will see that several people from some of these major Silicon Valley AI companies have been resigning over protests over security and ethics. And so that's an alarm bell that's being sounded not by Joey Stuckey, who's on the consumer side of AI, but by people that are actually building the stuff. So, but we talked about accessibility, and there are some remarkable things that happen in accessibility this year. And I can tell you that I'm an emotional being, but I'm not prone to a lot of tears. That being said, I almost cried when I got to NAMM, and I got to experience a company called Digico. They're based in the UK, and they have realized a dream that I had since I was a 15-year-old teenager wanting to be in the audio business. And that is, they make live mixing consoles. And if you're not familiar with a mixing console, that is where you bring all the different elements of your musical show together into a control surface that allows you to control all the various aspects of each instrument and blend those so that the audience can enjoy it in a live concert, situation. And so Digico has made the first digital mixing console. And let's be clear about this. Most live sound consoles are digital and are all run by a screen interface. And one of the reasons for that is when you're doing multiple bands a night, like at festivals or big clubs or whatever, the digital console allows you to save snapshots of each band. So when the bands get to the club at 3 p.m. and do their sound check, and then they come back at 8 o'clock that night or whatever and start playing, you can pull up each band's sound check, and it's perfect. And it's the way that you sound checked it earlier in the day, and they just get up there and play, and you go from band to band to band with virtually no downtime between bands and stuff like that. So digital consoles are really exciting because you can save these snapshots or screenshots. But of course, for the blind practitioner, with everything screen-based, we're locked out, and we cannot access any of that information. Well, Digico has made their consoles now where they all give you auditory feedback. So you touch the button on the console, it tells you what status it's in. So when I touched the console, it said mute button inactive. Then I pressed it again. It said mute button active. Then I hit solo active, channel 1 kick drum. So it told me the name of the instrument on the channel. It told me what status the channel was in, muted, soloed. It told me the pan position, which is the position in the speaker system, left or right or center, or some variant of that. It told me the volume level of the fader. It told me the frequency of the EQ. Everything gave me feedback. And it was and these days, to save space, the digital consoles tend to be in 8 or 16 channel configurations, but have the option of several hundred inputs. And so what you'll do is use a button called the bank button, and you'll go from bank 1, which is channels 1 through 16. You'll hit the bank button, and those same physical channels will become controllers for 7 through 24 or whatever. And so you can access all the inputs in a very small footprint. And again, that's all screen-based information that previously the blind practitioner did not have access to. Now, what was the best part of this experience was the fact that these people have spent their money on research and development. And, that's where most companies say something to the effect of, we sure would like to make our products accessible, but we just can't afford to do it. These people have made their product accessible and made the software that makes it all possible open source and free so that other music manufacturers can use it for their own solutions. And this is absolutely incredible. These are the kind of things that where AI and that kind of stuff can really shine. And I have long been saying over the past 6-7 years that I wanted artificial intelligence to take the place of the bulky and cumbersome screen readers that the blind currently have to use. And for AI to be able to be my visual interface in both the digital and physical world. This is something that is possible. We're seeing it happen. It's not here all the way yet, but it's possible. And it's the same thing for people that are in wheelchairs. There was a company that I got to meet. They make some amazing products that just really are exciting. They have solutions they have built. I mean, these are sort of custom solutions, so that you have to kind of pick a la carte. You can't. They're not mass produced, but there's a young lady who's got ALS, and she can use her eyes to click keyboard commands and stuff, just like Stephen Hawking did. That's how he would talk. He would click letters and spell out words and stuff like that. So she can blink and do stuff like that. And they have hooked it up to music making software so that using that same thing, she can participate in music. That was not possible before. So there again, a lot of what you're seeing now with AI, and I don't pretend to have the full inside knowledge here, but you're seeing coding becoming a lot easier because the AI is able to accelerate the coding, and people that are not, specialists in coding are able to get into the coding world and start making applications and things like that have very specific needs. So there's some real excitement, around how AI can be used for accessibility. The other thing, and I'm probably saying this wrong, but you have to understand that when I see something when I don't see, but when I see something on a screen, it's read to me by my screen reader, and half the time the screen reader pronounces it wrong. So if the screen reader pronounces it wrong, I will also pronounce it wrong. So apologies. But there's a company called Beater Maker. That's what it sounds like it's saying on the screen reader. And to be honest with you, I am too lazy to read letter by letter to see exactly what the letters are.
That's all good.
I don't have the time. So, but they make an EQ plugin that's real popular. But what they've done now, and I actually have one that I'm going to hook up in the studio in the next little while. They sent me a tube EQ unit, and it's all tube. It's an EQ. For those of you that don't understand what the tubes do, tubes control tone, and the tubes are made of glass, and the thickness of the glass determines the kind of tone that you get. Changing tubes can radically change the sound that the piece of equipment makes. And the EQ, you've seen controls on stereos or whatever, where it's bass, treble, mid. That's basically EQ. That's equalization. And I can, with this unit, I can control all those frequencies to a very, very, very fine, detailed way. And so I can really get down into, very specific frequencies and adjust things. So I can do that with this tube piece of outboard gear, but they've also made the plug-in version. So that's the software that simulates what the physical thing does. The plugins are never as good as the real gear, but they're good. But what they've done to add to these two different things is they have made an AI interface for this unit that allows you to talk to your EQ and tell it what you want it to do. And then you can recall all your settings and you can recall everything you've done. And what's exciting about that is if you can't see, you're now able to interface with the computer and you don't have to see. You can tell it what to do. I have come from the old school of having to memorize every single knob and button on every piece of equipment I own. Now, I mean, I can still do that, but now I can just tell the piece of equipment what I want it to do.
Wow.
Not being able to see the physical or the digital version is no longer an impediment. And it's really remarkable. This is a 4 or 5 companies have come out with a version of the famous Pultec EQ, which is a really famous piece of equipment from the late 60s, early 70s. And it had a flaw in its design. And that flaw became the most sought after sound in music. The actual fact that the piece of equipment did something that it shouldn't have technically done became its most famous attribute. And so you can tell this piece of equipment in layman's terms, do the Pultec trick. I don't have to spell out what the Pultec trick is, and I won't bore our listeners with what it is, but I don't have to know what frequencies or anything. I just say do the Pultec trick and it will do the Pultec trick. So anyway, those were some incredible moves forward in accessibility that we got to see at NAMM, and they were either AI or AI adjacent. Just really incredible just to see the progress that we're making, and it just really is awesome. And that's where I really think, like, having a personal assistant that you can talk to as an AI chatbot to help you be organized, I think that's awesome. Having a substitute for my eyes is awesome. If I can't move my hands, having a substitute for my hands is awesome. So AI has the ability to make life more accessible for everyone and more productive and more fun. So with all the warnings, I want to get the good stuff out. Yeah. So I just, but I mean, but it's all about usage. I mean, anything, everything has the power to be abused. And so, you have to, every single positive thing that we have today, look at the journey of the X-ray. I mean, Madame Curie literally died discovering, some of what X-rays could do. But while they are harmful and you don't want a bunch of them and you got to wear a lead vest when you get your teeth taken a picture of at the dentist, they save lives too. So there's all kinds of,
there's always more than one side to anything.
Every tech has its good and bad points. So,
right.
But my only concern here, and I'll finish with this, is just that we don't really have the luxury of time like we used to have, because AI is changing so fast. And there's something called Moore's Law, which is a computer term, and it's basically like every 2 years, the power of computing, the miniaturization of computing, like it basically doubles. And so that law, that's fast. But AI, in my opinion, again, stressing that I am not an AI expert, but AI, in my opinion, is moving exponentially faster than what we're used to traditionally seeing in the commercial space. So, we really have to get our minds around how we want it to integrate now. We don't really have the luxury of waiting to see what will happen. I really feel like this is a time where everybody needs to participate in shaping the future of AI.
Absolutely agree. I know, like last year, there's tech debt that comes at the end of the year, and the end of last year was hell. Absolute hell. Cloud outages, all kinds of stuff, because it's like, oh, we got to get it done for the new year. And it's the stuff that they were supposed to do, all the techs at times. It was hell. It was the worst tech nightmare from end of September. I should always know, end of September going through November. But then it just kept going on.
Yeah.
Outages and this program. And because it's all about all our programs. If you look at it, all of our programs are implementing AI. You can't buy a computer without it being attached to an AI service.
Or a phone.
Nothing.
It's coming. It's coming.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's there.
And so when we have these lawsuits that you're talking about, they're old.
Yeah,
It's like AI is speeding so fast ahead. Lawsuits are ancient, but it will balance out because right now the pendulum is absolutely swinging from side to side in an earthquake kind of way. And eventually it will settle because all things change, nothing stays the same. Change is very hard for all of us to accept, but it's the only constant we have in life
that's
is
true.
change. And
Yeah,
so, yes, you're going to have to deal with it. But I agree. Having our head in the sand over it means that it's gonna rule you instead of you ruling it. You know, while there's job loss, which is sad, in a way, like I would rather a robot go into a mine and get dirty than a human being losing their life at a younger
absolutely.
age from
I
taking
mean,
in coal
you're right,
dust, right?
and that's the idealistic version of AI that we've seen in the classic science fiction literature of the 50s, and he's taking over dangerous
Are you
jobs.
how old are you calling me now, Joey? But
But I mean
it's true.
well, I'm a classic sci-fi fan, but I mean the thing is, I mean the only other thing that's there will be job loss because
There is. Yeah.
that's the disruptive part, and there's job loss in the music sector. I mean, there's we're gonna have to reinvent ourselves. That's kind of like the story of being human, is that we have to constantly reinvent ourselves to be relevant, and that's something that's been happening since time immemorial. Every time we advance in some way, something becomes obsolete, and you have to figure out how to to navigate that new circumstance. But the other thing that I'll say, this is a bit of an activism part of my behalf, but I am concerned with the data centers that drive this AI growth. And so I won't go down the rabbit hole too far, but I will just say there's a lot of legitimate reasons to be concerned about that. There's a lot of people here in Georgia that are saying we don't want AI data centers here. And the problem here is the problem that's been with AI, generally speaking, from the corporate level down, which is transparency. There's a lot of transparency on the environmental impact
Mm.
of these AI data centers. They use a lot of electricity, they use a lot of water, and they are going into small communities that are sort of rural, that have a lot of land available for these massive data centers. But in some cases, the workforce that's going to be there is as big as the population, which puts extra strain on that town's resources. So there's a lot going on with AI data centers, and I have to confess that I was ignorant to how much power and how much water and how much impact there is on the environment from an AI data center. I did not know that at all.
Well, and we're going to have worse because as cloud is also part of all of this, right?
Yeah.
So cloud outages last year is part of this. Cryptocurrency is also part of this, which is huge. We covered a documentary, Vitalik, and Vitalik is a young man who created a cryptocurrency and did it out of good, right? And his family's involved too. And he saw, I mean, he even went into Ukraine to help and helped. So cryptocurrency's got some beautiful things in that it's a way that artists can actually get money. It's a way of a form of trade. And so there's some beautiful things with that. And it was also a way to help people in Ukraine during the war, which is still going, get aid. And he actually went there and he's a good guy. But then people are like, you're taking all the electricity, the water. And he realized his company was taking up the same amount as the entire country of Argentina.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot.
And that's a lot. And so he worked on that and how to change it and make it environmentally conscious. And so it's like even one of the companies Nance and I work with for hosting, they invest a percentage of their money into wind and solar power. And we want to do business with people like that as best we can, as long as they keep doing their service right. And I think we have this huge thing. It's, then they go into smaller towns and they're taking over natural habitats. Georgia had a huge issue in regards to they literally want to drain, the Okefenokee swamp. And I've been sending letters and doing my part on that because it's one of our most incredible biodiverse regions we have in this country. Your backyard there, Joey. the
Yeah.
Okefenokee Swamp. The Everglades is basically drained. It's almost not even what it was, right? Floridians a lot that are in the natural sphere understand that basically the Everglades is a shadow of itself. It's not what it was. It's not as biodiverse. If you go there for the first time, you'll go, yes, it's beautiful. It's this. You see gators and, but it's not as biodiverse.
And the thing too, people don't realize that we get so comfortable with our technology, we don't realize that it comes with a price that's not
Yes,
always
and
tangible.
it comes with the price of even your handheld devices, your computers, because now, I know my work, my computer died on me in the middle of a project. It just said, that's it, I'm done. Screw you, I'm out. And, it's a processor thing. And
Yeah,
so you get bigger and bigger processors. And now I'm going, oh, next time you get a gaming laptop if you do a lot of processing. So now we're doing this, but here's the deal. Every computer has a lifespan that is shorter and shorter, and we're doing it with cars. And so it's like, as we do all this, right, we are taking more resources of our natural spaces, which we need. We need those trees to breathe. Can we just remember
absolutely.
this, everybody? If we take out our trees, we're dead.
Yeah,
Period. That end of
yeah.
story. And the more we do this, just die. And if you don't care about grandkids, I mean, I'm here on this planet personally. I don't have kids, but I want the future to have clean air and clean water. And now kids are doing their papers on AI and all of that kind of stuff. That's not good. We need thinking brains, not what AI tells you to do. Because again, it's taking, it's like, let's put it this way. You go to Thanksgiving and 1/3 of the family's, a little, yeah, and now you're going to let them write your high school paper for you? Really? That's what your AI's taking it from
Well,
everyone.
it's the same thing of who controls what the AI learns.
I want Stephen Hawking
Yeah,
on my
I
AI,
mean the
but you're
famous.
not getting it. You're
Well,
not getting him.
there
You're
was a.
getting a conglomerate
I'm
of
pretty.
him,
I think it was. I believe it was a Microsoft chatbot. Anyway, it was one of the chatbots. They let it get trained on social content from X or Twitter or whatever it was at the time, and it became a racist, and they had to take it down. So I mean, this is where the conversation is so important about what it gets trained on, how it gets trained, because it's that same thing that I said kind of at the beginning, is a garbage in, garbage out. So you don't want the AI to sort of become what you think of as the repository of knowledge and wisdom. You have to realize it's as good as what you program it. It's
and that's
not.
a whole other career.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a new career, is people programming your AI for your company. And if your AI, and now it's getting to this point of, we did an interview with attorney Ward Heinrichs, an employment attorney in San Diego, and AI is a big deal now in employment law in regards to job postings and how your job offers, if someone sends in their resume and how they're being filtered through AI.
Right.
If somebody said, oh, you're Black and you don't get a job, oh, you're gonna get it. You're going to get it. And so they should get in trouble with it. But who programmed it? So programming the AI legally in what needs to happen in a company is becoming a big deal. So there are new jobs while old are being, it's like when someone passes, a baby is born. It's kind of the same yin yang thing that we have going on in our world. It's that pendulum, and it will find its balance some way. But environmentally, our computers, our handheld devices, our laptops, our tablets, none of these things actually can handle the processing. You're going to end up having to upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. And every upgrade you do means are we really recycling our computers? Really? I've seen what they've done. They smash them. Okay.
Yeah.
And so are they really? Maybe some people are doing a good stuff. So I'm not saying, I can't say 100%, but we're mining. We're mining.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single screen is being mined in Africa, and a lot of it is slave labor. So I just want to say, where are we going with all of this? I think there's some beautiful things. I know that medically, AI is amazing. It's helping hospitals even organize their files. So hopefully we have doctors that spend time with patients. Not always true, but hopefully. There's a lot of good things, a lot of amazing advancements. But like you said at the beginning of this, Joey, it's the Wild West right now. Same as the internet. Look how long, you remember Y2K? We're only now getting the internet into a normal structure. So, and we're not even there yet. We're not there yet, Joey. We're
We're
not.
not. And it's interesting too because you have to be thoughtful when you consume information about AI, because there's a lot of sort of false equivalencies that are going around. One of them is, and my wife's an advanced practice nurse, so she has a master's degree in nursing, and then she's also a midwife. She's retired now, but and I've been a professional patient as a brain tumor survivor since I was 18 months old. So we have a fairly comprehensive view of medicine and what's happening. And one of the things that's happening is that there are people touting AI as a solution for rural areas that no longer have funding for hospitals or clinics. And there are some amazing things that AI can do. So, for example, there's a new robotic ultrasound that's out that can take some amazing pictures and stuff like that, but it is not able to make medical determinations on its own. So while you may have this robotic device that's a sophisticated ultrasound in a rural area, you still need the mind and experience of a medical professional to make the transformation of those images into actionable data for somebody's health. So that's just one example of the medical space. AI can spot patterns if you train it right, but it can also miss things or misdiagnose things. So you have to be really careful. And, humans are the same way, but the AI, the difference there, because humans make mistakes just like AI makes mistakes. But the difference there is that in theory, you have a human conscience making sure that they do everything possible to get the right results. The AI doesn't have that guiding principle. So it's just a picture. And
right.
so I think that's really important to remember as we see a proliferation of better tools. We also need to make sure we have the skilled individuals to use those tools. So there's this sort of false equivalency that, well, your town may not have a hospital anymore, but don't you have this nifty AI ultrasound? Those two things are not the same.
No, they're not. They're not. So there's a lot of good. There's the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah,
and it's here
absolutely.
to stay. And
yeah.
let's just be conscious and be part of navigating it, like you said. So very cool. I'm so glad that there's better tools out there for you, Joey. And for those
it's incredible.
Who need them, I think that is fantastic. And I just want a tool that will tune a guitar for me, because I know it's covered. I know, but I'm just saying. Well, thank you, Joey. Joey will be back here next month, everyone. He's here every fourth Sunday, and you can keep up with him at joeystuckey.com. The link is in the episode notes. And there it is, everybody, AI and music and all kinds of things. And I know we touch politics too, but we behaved, I think, kind of.
Well, the thing is, being alive means being political. So if you want to see the changes to make your life the best it can be, sometimes that means you have to wade into the muck of politics. But it's just really more about, in my mind, participation to see the kind of AI you want to have as part of your daily life.
Exactly. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.